Okay, so on this problem, it says consider the weighting voting system 731 with a Q, a quota here. So the question is, what can this quota be? Let's take a look. So the first thing says, what values of Q result in a dictator? Now, you know what a dictator is, right? Somebody that has absolute power. But first off, if they're asking us for values of Q, the quota, do you remember that the quota must be more than half of the total votes? The quota must be more than half of the total votes. So let's go up here and write, what's the total? Well, here, never mind. I'll write it over here. What's the total votes? It's these three added up. 7 plus 3 plus 1, that's 11. And so half, so 11 divided by 2 equals 5.5. That's half. But it says it must be more than half. So that means 6 is more than half. 6 is more than half. So the lowest possible, well, so the quota, let's put it this way. The quota, the quota must be 6 or more. The quota must be 6 or more because it has to be more than half. Okay, so what if the quota, so we can't go lower than 6. So what if the quota is 6? Will that result in a dictator? Well, yeah, that 7, player 1 here, right? These are the players. Let me put down the players. This is, whoops. This is player 1, player 2. Boy, my pen is just not doing so well. Player 2, player 3. Yeah, player 1 would be a dictator. He has 7 votes. It only takes 6 to pass anything if the quota was 6, so he could do anything he wants. He has absolute power. So 6, if the quota is 6, but also if the quota is 7. If the quota was 7, player 1 is still a dictator because he has 7 votes. If it was 8, now player 1 is not a dictator. So we don't put on 8. So we include 6 and 7. If the quota was 6 or 7, player 1 would be a dictator because he has that many votes. And it can't be any lower than 6. The quota has to be 6 or more because it has to be more than half of the total votes. Okay, next question. What is the smallest value for Q that results in exactly, let me cite this, in exactly one player with veto power who is not a dictator? Okay, smallest value for Q. Well, it can't be 6 or 7 because those result in player 1 being a dictator. And they said not a dictator. So and it can't be, it's got to be 6 or more. It can't be 6 or 7. So let's try 8. What if we do 8? I'm just going to take a guess here. If it doesn't work, I'll move on to 9. Okay. So the question is, if I make it 8, I'm trying 8, seeing if that's possibly the answer. Does that make anybody have veto power? Well, let's be really clear. What is veto power? Veto power means you alone say no, all other players say yes. It is a no. It ends with a no. It ends with a no. So in other words, if you alone say no, even though everybody else says yes, you still are able to block it and it's a no. That's what veto power is. That's what the president of the United States has. He or she, if Congress puts something on the president's desk, the president can say no, and that blocks all the work of Congress. The president can't pass anything, not a dictator, but can say no to anything. That's what it means. You alone say no, even though everybody else says yes, and it ends it. It's a no. Okay, so let's go back here. What's the smallest value for Q? Well, would 8 work? Would there be exactly one player with veto power? Well, how about does player 1 here have veto power? If player 1 says no, and the other 2 people say yes, do you see that it's a no? Because because if player 1 says no, I don't like, whatever decision is trying to be made, player 1 says no, and the other 2 say yes, that's only 4 votes. That's not enough to pass it. If the quote is 8, that's not enough to pass it. So player 1, if he says no, he's able to block it himself, even though everybody else says yes. That's veto power. That's veto power. What if we go on to 9? So far we know 8 is one of the answers. What if we go on to 9? Oh, wait, let's stop right there. So let's go on to the next question. How about, what is the smallest value that results in, you see what it says? 2 players with veto power. So yeah, let's go on up to 9. And let's try 7, 3, and 1. And let's see if we get 2 people with veto power. Again, if player 1 says no, and the other 2 people say yes, they only have 4 votes. They can't pass it. It's a no. So player 1 has veto power, right? But they want 2 players with veto power. So let's go back. Still working on the same situation. This time we want to see if the second player says no and the other 2 say yes, if there's veto power here. And the result is no. So yes, player 2 has veto power. Do you see that? If player 2 says no, but everybody else says yes, they only have 8 votes. They don't have 9, so the decision is a no. So player 2 was able to block it all by himself. Player 2 has veto power. So both player 1 and in this 9-7-3-1 scenario where the quota is 9, both player 1 and player 2 have veto power. If they say no, even though everybody else says yes, it's a no, it's a no. They both have veto power. So that'd be 9. If the quota is 9, they both have veto power. Hey, wait a minute. Maybe the third player has veto power also. Let's check it real quick here. So what if, in this situation, the third player says no, but the other 2 say yes? They have 10 votes, so it's a yes. It's still going to pass. So player 3 does not have veto power. Even though he says no, if the other people are yes, they have enough to pass it. So it's a yes. He was not able to veto it. So player 3 does not have veto power. So in the case where the quota is 9, player 1 and player 2 have veto power. Player 3 does not. It stays a yes. So exactly 2 players have veto power when the quota is 9. And so there we go.